It was not an insurrection. These are people that were there to attend a rally, and then they were there to protest. Now, it devolved into a riot. But the idea that this was a plan to somehow overthrow the government of the United States is not true.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is mimicking Donald Trump on the campaign trail, even down to parroting Trump's talking points. But in the polls, DeSantis is in the dumps, trailing the, for now, twice indicted Trump by double digits. Joining me now, Congressman James Clyburn, House Assistant Democratic Leader and a Biden-Harris campaign national co-chair. Congressman Clyburn, as always, thank you for coming to the show. First, let me just get your reaction to what you just heard from Governor DeSantis.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me, Jonathan. That was one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard from a public servant. Here is a man who's the governor of the state of Florida saying that January 6th was not an insurrection. How many trials have we had? How many people have pled guilty? How many people have been sentenced in jail, all for insurrections? And here he is, in the face of all of that, our judicial system taking an independent look at what took place on January 6th and saying to the American people, these people are guilty of insurrections. They are going to jail. Others are going to be tried. We now have a pending, what I think is a pending indictment on that same subject. Could be of the President of the United States. And he, on the campaign trail, saying it was not an insurrection. People gathered there. That is silliness, and he ought not ever. That 19% you just showed, that to me should be something like zero.
Well, Congressman, there is a possible third indictment looming for Donald Trump, and yet, as we just showed, he is topping the polls. In fact, every time he gets indicted, his poll numbers go up, and it seems to work great for him in the primaries. But do you think it will have any impact? Let's say he becomes the Republican nominee and faces President Biden and Vice President Harris, that those indictments will inure to his benefit in the general election?
Well, Jonathan, I know I'm in a very small group of people who still believe that Trump will not be the Republican nominee. Now, I've been wrong on these things before, and I could be wrong this time. I just don't think so. And I think it's showing up in the polling of the last 48 hours. At some point in time, people are going to come to their senses, as they are now seem to be doing so. We just have seen two big polls. One head-to-head, Biden leads Trump by 7 points. Another one in the three-way race, Biden leads by 9 points. I think people are going to come to realization that the American people are beginning to zone in on the leadership of this country. They're beginning to zone in on what the Biden administration has done for this country, and they are going to make judgments based upon facts. And the facts are going to be clear with all of these indictments and with what could very well be a trial coming up. And I just don't think Republican voters are going to take a chance on this guy again.
So on that point, Congressman, Republican voters not taking a chance on that person, but a new poll shows that a third-party candidate could draw as much as a third of the vote in 2024. A third-party candidate very well might hurt the chances of the Biden-Harris ticket getting reelected. How much does this possibility worry you?
Well, I'm concerned about that, but I've looked at the history of this, Jonathan. You know me very well, and you know that I'm not going to just take things on face value. I'll look at it. People have to remember that Bill Clinton became president of the United States with only 42%. Ross Perot was a third-party candidate. He got a big number, and it helped Bill Clinton. I don't think Bill Clinton would have got elected were it not for a third party. So I'm not getting all exercise over whether or not there is a third-party candidate. I don't think there should be. I'm against what this no labels people are doing. I think some of them are just playing games. They're not being transparent to American people. We don't know where their money is coming from, and they won't tell us where the money is coming from. The same kind of thing happened in 2016, and now we see where some of that money was coming from and some of that aid was coming from. I just don't think we ought to give credibility to anybody running for president, and they won't be transparent about where their finances are coming from.
And on that note, we're going to have to leave it there. Congressman James Clyburn of South Carolina, as always, thank you very much for coming to the Saturday Show.
Thank you very much for having me.